GetLoveDreamingBeach.com.
And I'm back in the car. I just dropped my younger son off to his tutor appointment. And now I'm off to pick up my older son from his practice. So, I was watching Facebook, Abby Echo, and a video popped up where she was stitching a guy saying, so the guy was making a comment to a comment. So it was a written comment from a woman saying that basically she was tired of having to, clean up after a grown man who was not contributing. She wanted a partner, not a man-child. And the man was making a comment, so he had her comment up next to him. And his comment was, so you're telling me that you would rather take your children's father away from him than just do your chores? This is the mentality of these fucking motherfuckers out here. And my reply, which he won't hear, is, you're telling me that you would rather let your wife leave you than be an equal partner who's contributing to day-to-day chores that every human being creates just simply by being alive. Every human being creates a long, long list of things that must get done on a daily basis to keep and maintain the life of that human. You need to eat, you need to wear clothing, you need to sleep somewhere safe and clean and warm and dry, or cool when it's hot. You need food that is reasonably healthy to keep you alive and reasonably healthy. You need exercise. You need access to clean water to drink and clean yourself and clean your clothes. You need clean clothes every day. You need clean clothes. You live in a home where you're going to need to cook and clean so that you need a clean home where you can cook food in a clean environment so that you don't kill yourself with germs. And all of these things are required every day, 2 or 3 times a day, 7 days a week, 4.5 weeks in a month, 12 months in a year, and hopefully for decades upon decades of years of your life. These are the things that each human being generates the list of chores and to-dos, basic standard stuff. And in patriarchy, the patriarchy tells men that that's a woman's job. All that daily, endless, never-ending, never finished, thankless, relentless, constant can't let it go. Can't just not do it. I mean, you could live in a very messy home. You could just take, get takeout every night. Some people do that. You could pay somebody, like I was saying in another video of mine. One of my very wealthy clients, that's what she does. She has 3 separate homes very busy, always traveling, always doing business, staying in the most luxurious hotels, eating in, you know, the fanciest places, the Waldorf Astoria and all these fancy, ritzy kind of places. But she's also working very, very, very hard and making deals and meeting all kinds of people and going to all different countries and all this amazing stuff. And she wants to come home to a very neat and tidy home, regardless of which one it is. So she pays people to do the work for her that she doesn't have the time, nor should she be bothered, because her time is way much more valuable. Her time, her hours, the time that she has each day and night to not just feed herself and have a tidy home and make sure her clothes are clean. The time that she has in her waking hours, she is busy working, making millions of dollars. So she can pay somebody $50 an hour to go clean up her house once a week, once every other week, once a month, whatever the case. Each house has a different level because of how often she's there. And, you know, making sure that they're cleaning the deck and sweeping in the corners and changing the bed sheets and cleaning out the old food in the fridge and all those things she is making sure of. And at the same time, while she's a super busy person, she's a super considerate person. She makes sure that she doesn't forget people's birthdays and anniversaries and holidays and work anniversaries and milestones and promotions and all this stuff. And so she hires somebody to help her do that stuff, because it's a lot to remember and she can't hold it all in her head. And you know what? She can afford to pay somebody, me, to help her do those things. And she actually has she has 2 assistants now, and her other assistant does all of like the business type gifts. So anyway, my whole point is, like, there's men who have these ridiculous, outdated, misogynistic, patriarchal, double standard, fucking ridiculous expectations, where they literally believe that it is a woman's duty. It's her job. It's in her DNA. It's in her vagina. It's in her ovaries. It's in the playbook that says, hey guys, you get to go to work and pay some bills, and that's it for you, hon. You can mow the lawn a couple times and, you know, maybe get an oil change and, you know, maybe something breaks once in a while and, you know, you can fix it or get it fixed or replace it or whatever it is, you know, and that's it for you, hon. And the daily grind, the every single day and night and afternoon and holiday and all this stuff. Why was I mentioning that lady? Because she has her priorities right. She never forgets special occasions. She never forgets to send something special for someone. Does it matter that she has an assistant who helps look at the calendar and tell her, hey, what's coming up? Does it matter that someone else is doing the actual administrative task? No, what it actually tells you is that that stuff takes a lot of mental load, and even though it's not a difficult thing to do, it's not a difficult task, it's still a task that requires constant upkeep and follow-up. And I've even let it drop away, to be honest. This year I haven't been on it as on top of it. She started a new job, and some of the people that she was getting gifts for, she no longer needs to, because they're no longer in the same, you know, company or orbit or whatever. And then that other assistant is doing the ones that are business related, and so, you know, I'm still doing the personal ones. and it's just not as many. Although I do need to look at that anyway. But anyway, my whole point is like, men are, not all men, but misogynistic, patriarchal men have such a warped double standard perspective and view of things. There are men who they've been raised that way. That's what they've seen that's what they've been role modeled as, their example in their own homes, on TV shows, in movies, in lots of places of business. You see that men are given leadership roles that they really don't deserve and that they certainly haven't earned. And it's not true that no man can be a leader. There are men who can lead and who do, but there are a majority of men out here that are truly living in this archaic, primitive, caveman kind of bullshit mindset that women are out here to fucking serve them, and they want to subjugate us in all these ways that they have for so many years. And women are just not interested. And, I have the benefit of being older. Now I'm not thinking anxiously about whether or not I'm going to ever be able to have these babies that I was wanting to have. And now I have had these babies. I did fantasize for like 3 years. I fantasized that I was going to have a third baby and that I would have a little girl. But that never happened. And I don't regret it at all. And it's, even though physically I could have a baby since I'm still getting my menstrual cycle, I would not want to have a baby at this age or stage of my life. And I'm actually more than happy with my 2 children, and I went through the baby phase with one and then the other, and they were both kind of babies at the same time. And I did it almost exclusively as, I was with the dad, but a single mom for the first 5 years of being a mom. We stayed together. And my kids were 5 and 3 when we consciously uncoupled and he moved out. And then shortly after that, we moved out and got a different places, which is where we've been now for 9.5 years. But so the last year of our relationship, we lived together as roommates with him like I had said in another video, which I think was for members only on Patreon, that I contemplated for 2 years. So we had a 2-bedroom apartment, and there was a futon in the living room, and one of the bedrooms was our shared art studio. We each had our desk and our half of the room and our stuff, although I had a tiny little desk, and then the rest of my half was literally storage for everybody's crap, not just mine, not just the kids, his stuff, my stuff. It's like somehow in this room that was half and half, he got all his shelves and his desk and everything all set up nice, and then just dumped everything on my side. So I had my desk, but then the rest of the space was like storage. And it was, I was exhausted and I literally didn't make art for several years because I was so overwhelmed with all of the baby care and housework, while he would go to work sitting at a desk at a computer in an air-conditioned office, doing work on the computer, coming home and then getting to decompress for an hour or more. And it was just like, I was literally on my own and doing everything with the baby. Like, it was as if our lives were completely disconnected, even though we were living in the same place. And then finally, so for 2 years, so we were together for 7, although it spanned 8 years because the last year we were living together, but not together. So And anyway, so basically the last couple of years before I was like, you want to just make my part of the studio your bedroom and just make it your room? And he was like, yes. But he had basically been sleeping on the futon almost every single night before that. And always making some excuse about, no, I wasn't doing that. I'm like, you just don't really... Yes, of course it was about me and intimacy with him, but it was even more so, it's like, you're just not being there for your children. You're just not being a parent. And that was apparent. Anyway, I don't know how I got off on this, but my point is that I've been single for a really long time, and in that time I've really been contemplating not just my own personal experience in a relationship, but I went through several years of trying to manifest a specific person through the process of becoming more sincerely me. And the more sincerely me I've become, the more I'm realizing, and the more I started to ask myself, like, what do I even want in a romantic relationship anyway? Like, what is the point of even having a boyfriend, to me personally? And when I thought about it, it was like, if I'm really honest, other than some like occasional affection and sex, I mean, it's like, I guess if, wait, somebody's calling me. All right, I want to go for a little walk. I'm at the park where my son is finishing up. I was just yapping. Oh shit, I just got dirt on my pants. Yapping to myself. Oh, and I don't have my coat. Not sure what's the temperature out. It's been cold. But anyway, my point was that I really realized, like, and hey, different people are different, obviously. Some people are extroverted and they like really want a partner. Like, I am super introverted and I love doing stuff on my own. Like, I love my children. I love being with my children. I always prefer when my children are home. But I'm still a very solitary type of person. Like, the stuff that I do is just solitary stuff. So some people who are like super extroverted and they just like well, I don't mean to say mean terms, because I, as an introvert, I do kind of like, I perceive extroverted people as desperate and needy. Like clingy motherfuckers. Like, oh my god, like you need somebody there all the time. Like, what is wrong with you? But hey, whatever. That's just how I'm wired. Now I'm at the park and I'm gonna go for a little lap. I noticed how enormous I looked in my last video. I mean, I was wearing like multiple layers of really baggy clothes. But I still look huge. But whatever. I've changed, I've aged, my lifestyle's changed. So now I am, like I said, focusing back on me. Work is important. It's a priority. But committing to myself to take the time to take care of my own body, my own health and fitness, and my own vegan diet. And yeah, so I just think it's super important. That's what I was saying before. At my age, at my big old age, healing from trauma, healing from SA, being an introverted person, being a very creative and artistic person who's very happy with solitary activities. Being a single mom with 2 young teenage boys who require a lot of my time and energy. I have a somewhat flexible job. Actually, it's very flexible. I'm going to have weekly meetings and stuff. One of the meetings is the same time every week, and then the other client, we meet like sometimes once a week, sometimes 2, even 3 times a week. It varies. There's a lot of work for me to do, and as long as I'm getting it done in the deadline, it's all good. And that allows me to take my kids to school and pick them up from practice and all the things that I want to do. It's really cold. I put this other huge sweatshirt on top. So the fact is, between my children, my own personal commitments to myself, my paid work, relaxing, regenerating, rejuvenating, doing all my basic shit, my chores, eating and sleeping and showering and laundry and Ubering my children, Ubering without pay, back and forth in every which way, day after day, night in, night out, day in, day out. What is that from? Anyway, I simply don't have time. I don't have time to try to meet someone, try to get to know someone, I have my own family and friends that I don't even speak to enough. My own brother and I barely talk, not because lack of love, lack of time. My sister and I barely get to speak. My mom and I try to call my mom at least once or twice a week. And then I got my niece and my nephews and my other brother. And I got my friends. I do have a couple friends. And then, there's so much stuff to do. There's never enough time in the day to do it. And I just simply don't care to try to get to know some guy. I want to get to know me. I want to learn how to earn even more money. I want to shift with my shifting life. My children are getting older. Their needs are changing. They still need me a lot in different ways. So that's my focus. Anyway, those are my thoughts for now. Like I said, I'm going to start making somewhat shorter videos instead of going on and on and on for an hour and a half and then compiling a big long video. I'll just go on and on for like 10 or 20 minutes. And we'll see how that goes. Join me for the next one. Don't forget to hit like, share, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification so you always get a new notification for my next video. And we out.
GetLoveDreamingPeach.com